take projection.
Welcome everybody to Taking On Sports. I am TD. That is Greg. Greg, how you doing, man?
I am doing pretty good. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm pretty good. Pretty good. Nice fall day here in Birmingham, or late summer at least. Been a couple weeks since we talked, y'all. Of course, we've had the start of college football season since we last talked.
Yeah.
We talked after week 0, and some things have happened. We'll start, as always, with our Tide, beloved Tide in Tuscaloosa. The Kalen DeBoer era officially kicked off last week with a crisp, sound ass whooping of Western Kentucky.
And it
Uh,
was.
Offense looked great, defense looked great. It looked everything you wanted out of a first game of a new era. And then yesterday, as we record this Sunday night, Saturday, game 2 came around. South Florida came to
Huh.
Tuscaloosa, and for 3.5 quarters, whoo, man, it was
Yeah,
a struggle.
it was a dog fight, a rock fight.
It It was. It was a rock fight. It looked basically no different than last year. Uh, their line was just pushing our offensive line around. We were getting dumb penalties. We couldn't move the ball. Um,
And when we did move the ball, we'd fumble.
yeah, we'd fumble, or
Have
we
fumbles
had
or a
what,
holding call.
two
Like it was,
scores
yeah,
brought
calm
back
down.
by touchdowns. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then finally, in the end, Alabama, the Tide offense broke through, got the running game going, 3 late touchdowns, and made the score look. If you just saw the score, you'd see
Yeah,
what
you
was it,
get it. Oh, yeah, that was pretty
42-16.
good.
Yeah, yeah, it'd be a ho hum. It was not. So what that tells me, first of all, is that obviously USF is the next great college dynasty. Yeah. I mean, all credit to them. They played their asses off.
Showed up.
Had a good game plan, but
And then, and honestly, if their quarterback could have a little more accurate, we would have been in trouble because he had a couple
hmm
guys wide open in the first half. And he missed a few, and oof, but they beat our secondary deep a couple of times.
Yeah, it
So
was yeah, like I said, they had it was their coaches I'm blanking on his name, but he was the former offense coordinator at Tennessee, of course,
yeah,
so was there 2 years ago when they beat us. So,
yeah. So I mean, he's a great football. He seems to be a good football mind. I mean, it's Alex something. I can't, but yeah.
yeah.
But I mean, he seems to be a great football mind. Seems like he has USF going in the right direction. So it'd be interesting to see what they do going forward for this season and in the future. And if he keeps on improving there, I mean, he eventually probably a hot commodity for Power Five type jobs when those things open up because he seems to
Mhm.
be a good coach. But we won the game, but it was some good things, but a lot that we got to work on. But I think main thing is when we saw that we can cut back on the mistakes, we'll be fine. I mean, it was a little different than the last year because we were actually moving the ball at times, and we didn't do that at all
No,
in
yeah.
23. Um, I guess my biggest takeaway though is why didn't we get Formsby out of the game way beforehand? We brought in Pritchett on the right tackle, and then we saw the last 3 drives were very smooth, quick touchdowns, no penalties, and it's like, why didn't this happen at halftime?
Yeah, they did mention that Pritchett was hurt, so maybe they just didn't want to
Yeah,
throw him
but
in and risk, and it does
ah,
create a little worry about the depth of our line. If we need Proctor to get healthy real quick.
yeah,
Um, he was a mysterious kind of scratch before the Western Kentucky game, injured his
yeah,
shoulder in practice before the game.
yeah,
So, we need him to get quick. We need a Taco Casa kid to preferably not see the field again this year unless it's in mop up duty, but he needs to
right.
definitely improve a lot.
I
A
mean,
lot of penalties on the whole
but
line, but a lot of them were him specifically, too.
yeah. Yeah, he had a lot of holding and he was getting whooped. Now, but he is I mean, he's a young player, so I mean, he has a lot of years left. So I mean, he'll
hmm
get better. But if, man, I mean, USF's good, but man, it's gonna get tougher every week. So yeah, we're gonna need a vast improvement along the offensive line for sure. Um,
Yeah, definitely. You want to give Jalen Milrow more time to throw. Someone in his face. I saw a lot of talk online last night. He's not going through his progressions. He didn't have time, man.
right,
Um,
it was not pretty.
yeah, but he's made some
Um,
plays with his feet. He's done that
yeah,
a lot. Game one, we talked about how great the offense looked. He had 3 throwing scores, 2 running scores. So he's done that
yeah,
3 times now. He's the only Alabama quarterback in history to throw
right.
3 and run 2 in one game, and now he's done it multiple times. Um, I think he's looked great. Other things through the first 2 weeks offensively, Ryan Williams seems he's the real deal.
He does.
Um,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah,
I will say
Hollywood.
we tried to go to him a little too much. I thought.
Hmm.
They kept on trying it deep, and I get it. But I mean, if it's not there, we got when we're eventually, we're gonna have to have a better game plan. Just throw it to Ryan because it seemed like we were, they tried every now and again, and someone's gonna pick that.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, definitely kind of a little reminiscent of those like Amari Cooper, early Calvin Ridley offenses where it's like where the pass is going.
right, because
Uh,
I think Bernard has some good play. Good. I thought they did a good job getting him in the early part of the
mhm,
game. I would like to seen him get more touches throughout. Because I mean,
mhm,
honestly, we haven't seen much from him. And then Kobe Prentice had the the one touchdown. I mean, he looked solid, but we're just gonna have they're gonna have just continued to, I guess, continue to learn what works and improve on and keep adding things to it because I think,
mhm.
but I mean, it's looking good, but it was just is like a work in progress more than anything. Everybody's looking used to each other. I know what it's been,
Mhm.
that a spring and a fall, but really, we know that it can take much longer than that to fully gel there with all this new
Yeah,
systems and everything. But
yeah, and you mentioned the 2 other receivers, Jeremy Bernard and Kobe Prentice, and you got
yeah,
Kendrick Law on special teams. He had a big
right,
night. There's definitely the talent is there to be a really really good receiving corps.
right,
But yeah, like you said, they just got to gel. The lines got to figure their things out, and we'd like to see some
hmm
more. I'd like to see some more intermediate routes and throws,
right,
and some more screens, some more really quick throws. Work some
yeah,
bubble screens. Get guys like Kendrick Law and
and
Ryan
some open
Williams.
space,
Yeah,
yeah,
the ball in space. Let them,
right, yeah.
good rhythm throws for Jalen Milrow. Yeah.
hmm
On the other side of the ball, defense has looked very intense and very violent the first couple weeks. I love it so
Yeah,
far.
I
Kane
do like
Womack's.
it. Yeah, they're flying around for sure.
Yeah, you definitely, the secondaries obviously got to grow up quick. That group of linebackers, I heard who was on the call last night? Jesse Palmer say is probably
And
the
Joe,
best group.
yeah,
Yeah, and Joe Testor, yeah, the best group of linebackers in the country, possibly, and that's probably a good argument for that. The line seems to be getting pressure. Obviously you always want more pressure, but
yeah,
yeah, so far everything is looking good. Like you said, a work in progress. That's not always a bad thing. Like Coach
no,
Saban used to say, like if it gives you something to coach them up on. So
right, exactly. And then
you
I
do.
mean, you look at
Go ahead.
no. What I was gonna say is, if you don't, if you looked your best in September, I mean, then you
Yeah.
only have, so. But I like the effort. I like that the defense is flying around. I thought I would have liked to have shut down the running game a little more from USF.
Mm-hmm.
The quarterback ran, but we did a better job shutting it down in the second half. I thought first half he ran wild, but he had about 90 yards in the first half.
He did,
We,
yeah, and you got to wonder how much was just they got tired in the late in the
yeah,
game that helped
right.
us out. But yeah, no, he
Yeah.
was, and it was kind of one dimensional. It was a read option offense, and he
Right,
was they were going fast. He was making that read and making plays for a lot of the first half before we finally
right,
shut it down.
right. But we did a good job of getting off the field on third down, though. I think they're like at one point 1 to 15
Oh,
on third
I
down.
think they
So
finished 1 of 17 on third downs. Yeah,
nice.
so
So that was
that
good.
is yeah,
That was
that is
good.
great, and that is
Right.
not third and Kirby, third and uh, what's the guy that left us for Ole Miss? I've already put him out my brain. Uh, who the hell the guy that's tormented us for the past however many years?
I don't know why we can't think of him, but yeah.
I am absolutely. I can see his face right now. I'll tell you that much. It'll come to me randomly, but
Yeah.
yeah. So next week, big noon game, early 11 o'clock Central Time at Wisconsin at Camp Randall. A tough place to play. Wisconsin hasn't looked super great either. They kind of
And,
struggled for a bit yesterday with South Dakota.
yeah.
And not South Dakota State either, just plain old
It's not
South
the it's
Dakota.
not the
So
it's not the good Dakota.
yeah,
It's not
um,
North Dakota State or South Dakota State.
yeah. So but still a tough environment. First road game under Kalen DeBoer. They're going to be loud. They'll be intense for this game.
Oh yeah.
Um, that line's going to have to know their calls. Jalen's going to have to know when to read blitzes, when to
Right.
when to take those deep shots, when to pull it down, and run, when to we
Yeah,
need dumps, and I think,
for
like I
sure.
said, we need to see some more quick throws, but should be exciting next week. Uh, anything else on Bama before we move on?
No, I think there's stuff to work on, but I think overall we come
Yeah.
2-0, and yeah,
Mhm.
I don't know what else. I mean, would have liked a cleaner game, but I mean, we can work on that as the season goes on. Most importantly, we're 2-0, unlike a lot of other teams that no, should also be 2-0. So could be a much worse
Ex-
situation.
exactly. We will move on to. Well, let's start with those situations.
Mhm.
Florida State has not had a good start to the
Mhm.
2024 football season. We talked about last time we talked their week 0 loss to Georgia Tech. They then followed that up with a Monday night loss at home to Boston College. Uh, yeah. Whew. Like I said in our preview, I had them as our prediction. I had them as my disappointing team from the ACC, just because I was like, well, you can only go down from last season,
Right.
barring an undefeated national title this year. Um, and they're not going to get there, and they might struggle now to get in to the playoff, even if because these are
Yeah.
two conference losses off the bat. It's not two
Yeah, that's tough.
non-conference or so they are already 0-2 in the ACC,
Yeah.
and they still have Clemson to go.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you have to give your kudos to like we did to Georgia Tech, but Boston College really came in there and smacked them in the mouth. I mean, it wasn't close.
No,
They got out
and it
physicaled. They
the
ran
same.
all over them.
I was about to say same game plan Georgia Tech had. These
Yeah,
two teams just ran right at Florida State, and
yeah,
that shouldn't happen if you're a team like Florida State.
yeah. Especially, I mean, because that was going to be supposedly the strength of the strength of the team was supposedly going to be their defense again. Now, given they lost a lot to the draft, but through the transfer portal that they seem to be very fond of, and
Mhm.
they were supposedly going to be a great defensive unit again, and definitely not the case at this point. And man, it doesn't look like a DJU situation is going to work out long term. He may not
Ooh,
even make it through
no,
the season.
he has not looked good at all.
No.
Yeah, that's a
And I
shame
don't
there,
know if
but
it's
that's
I don't know if it's a play calling, if it's him. I'm assuming it's a mix somewhere. He's just not. He's not Jordan Travis.
no,
We
for
saw
sure.
him. We saw him at Clemson. I mean, and honestly, everybody was so high on him after that loss at Notre Dame when he, came in and put up a boat. Had about a 400-yard passing game in South Bend
Mm-hmm.
in the COVID year. Um, and that was, oh my God, DJU so good, and you know, but it'll be interesting. I know the crowd was calling for the backup. I think he's a four-star, pretty highly touted guy. Can't think of his name right now, but he was definitely
Mm-hmm.
his name was definitely getting called last Monday. The thing is, though, it doesn't get easier for Florida State. A very good Memphis team is coming to town.
Yeah, yeah, a Memphis team that you should not look past.
No,
Which I doubt they will. They're on high alert now, but
yeah,
it's
I don't know.
you said it doesn't get easier, and then they have I think SMU and Cal maybe before
Right,
they face Clemson either at the end of this month or the
right.
start of October. But yeah, Memphis comes to town. That's also an 11 o'clock kick this Saturday. So we'll see how
Very
Mike Norvell
interesting.
fares against his old school.
Right, that was where it was prior to
Hmm.
coming to Florida State. So that'll be
Yeah.
that'll be interesting. And Memphis is a team that a lot of people are on high on to be one of those contenders out
Hmm.
of the mid major type. So that'll be interesting.
But yeah, let's see elsewhere. The big story. Week one was kind of tame as far as upsets. We mentioned the Boston College, but that didn't happen until
Mm.
Monday.
Right.
Yesterday, it was a lot of close calls for a lot of people, but then Notre Dame, a
Wow.
home loss to NIU, something that Greg we know
We know
all
all
too
too well.
familiar. We seen one of those firsthand, but Alabama was not number 5 in the country at that
No,
time.
we weren't.
Um,
We weren't. But yeah, way,
mm,
way, way different situation.
mm-hmm,
Um, and it's funny because I mean, week one. I mean, that was, overall it was pretty impressive to go into College Station. Get the win. Against the A&M defense looked good. The offense, A&M has some work to do there. But for Notre Dame to go into the hostile environment and get the win like that, and then after that, people were like, "Wow, look at their schedule." They until they play that USC game, he could very well go undefeated. And lo and behold, first
ugh.
game out the gate, and they was
Yeah,
bad yesterday.
and that works the other way around too, because if they, that's looking at their schedule, there's now not a lot of places
Else,
to
no,
yeah to get a marquee win. Now, granted, if they went out 11-1, Notre Dame's getting in a playoff. That's
yeah,
but still,
they're gonna have to play a lot better. Go 11-1.
yeah, they have to go on the road to Purdue next week, which again
No,
should be winnable. But we thought that about
no,
NIU at home.
right.
It's just weird. These kind of losses, just it seems to be something that happens to Notre Dame the past few years. A couple years ago they had that loss
The
at home to
Marshall.
Marshall. Yeah, Marshall. They lost at home. Granted, Cincinnati made the playoff, but they lost to them that one year.
Mhm.
Uh, I feel like they've. It's just something that you don't. It's if you're Marcus
It's,
Freeman, that's not a good loss. You don't want that
no,
on your
it's
resume at
not.
all. It's year
Nope.
3. Uh, Riley Leonard has looked good for them, but you also got to wonder. I mean, shouldn't Notre Dame should be getting 5-star talent? They should be having
Yeah.
big time QBs coming there. But if they have to hit the portal too, no knock against Wake Forest or Duke, but those aren't programs that Notre Dame should be getting quarterbacks from.
No. No.
But
But it may. Yeah. I will say, right. I don't know. Riley Leonard's a tough kid. He runs the ball well, but overall, I was kind of shocked they actually went with him there.
hmm.
Just because I don't think he's a quarterback that's going to take you to the national championship.
No, it seemed to be kind of a repeat of Sam Hartman from last year.
Yeah, and not not as good a player in my mind.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll see how that does. Like we said, it's a very manageable schedule. I mean,
Right.
look, like we said, at Purdue, then Miami, Ohio, Louisville, Stanford, Georgia Tech, Navy, all those games are at, um,
Winnable, but
yeah,
will be.
winnable. And at home. Well, Navy and Georgia Tech are both neutral sites.
Yeah,
Well, Georgia Tech technically is in Atlanta still, and the Mercedes-Benz Dome. But
right.
a Florida State team comes to Tallahassee that's now not so daunting. Virginia, Army, and then like you said, they end the season at USC. So I mean that's actually a joke of a schedule. They have 3 true road games.
Yeah. Huh.
Um, they
Which
did,
is
and they
funny.
did look. It was a close, as a hard fought victory in week 1. They went to Kyle Field and got the win. So,
Yeah. I mean,
um,
they look really good. But
mhm.
yesterday they only put up 14 points at home when you're the number 5 team in the country. It's not a good look. I mean, Riley Leonard, 2 interceptions, only 163 yards passing. They didn't even really run the ball very well. Like,
Mm-mm.
kudos to whatever Northern Illinois did. I honestly didn't watch too much of the end, but
They just kind
kudos.
of out physical them. Same thing.
Yeah,
They just kind of lined up. They played disciplined football. Nothing
yeah,
special. They just executed their game plan and it worked.
right.
Um,
So man, I can only
and
imagine the radio shows around South Bend this coming up week, and how
yeah, we'll see how that season turns around there.
they.
But it's also never been more obvious. I mean, come on, you're losing to MAC teams. You're a Big Ten school, Notre Dame. Just go ahead and join.
Join your
Uh,
brethren. Yeah.
let's see elsewhere though. Let's go back to the SEC now. Georgia, national and conference favorite, destroyed Clemson that first game. It was an ugly first half, kind of reminiscent of
Mhm.
their game. Was that last year or 2
That's
years ago?
2 years against
Uh,
Oregon. Yeah.
yeah. No, I'm even talking about the Georgia Clemson game when that 10-7, 10-3 or
Oh
whatever it
yeah.
was.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but then it turned into the game against Oregon where Georgia turned it on, just
Yeah.
dominated that second half.
Yeah. They
And then they
really.
played Tennessee Tech yesterday. So,
Yeah. So that even.
um, yeah,
I mean, they did
uh,
what they're supposed to do.
yeah. Clemson did have a good rebound.
They did. I was
The re-
impressed with Clemson
yeah,
actually.
beat the hell out of
Yeah,
Appalachian State at home.
they did
Klubnik looked a lot better than he did against Georgia. So
much better.
uh, you don't have to play Georgia every week. So maybe there's still hope for Clemson yet because
Yeah, because
after
that's what I was.
the first game, it was looking rough.
It was, and that's what I was thinking. As bad as things look for Clemson after week 1, the the bright side of that is it may very well be that Georgia's just that good of a team, and you're
Hmm.
not going to see anything like that for the rest of the season.
Yeah. Now,
So
if you're a Clemson fan, that worries you because you used to be on par with those programs, and
right,
now if you go to the playoff, I mean,
who knows?
is it Georgia's level, or are you still going to struggle
Uh,
with even like a first round game or
Right.
so?
But at the
Um,
same time, you have a whole season to get better. So,
hmm.
you could look much different November and December than what you looked in September. So, well, it'll be interesting to see what they do, for the rest of the season there for sure.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's definitely a manageable schedule. They get a bye next week, and then they have NC State and Stanford at home before having to go to Tallahassee October 5th. So,
Yeah,
certainly there for them to keep the momentum from yesterday going.
for sure.
Um, Another big, not quite a number 5 losing at home upset, but a very surprising Auburn loses at home to Cal.
Ooh.
Doesn't look good at all doing it.
No,
We
no.
talked about this game a little bit in our preview, and last year Cal had 17 chances to win the game and fumbled every one of them. They didn't fumble it this year.
No.
They kind of took it to Auburn. The score wasn't a big blowout, but Peyton Thorne, 4 interceptions, 5 turnovers total for the Tigers. Ooh, it's
The
rough.
Cal, the Cal defense got after them early and often.
Hmm.
And if the Cal had any type of offense, it could have been a blowout. But
Yeah.
for Auburn, luckily, Cal's offense wasn't much better for the majority of the game. Um, but that just again, and everybody's been saying it. I don't know what free season that saw in that quarterback that he thought that that was his guy. Peyton Thorne,
Well,
I don't get it. I don't get it. Hmm.
well, and not only that, but we've talked about it before too. Look, and I think I even answered this on Twitter. One of our, I forget his exact handle, but it's Birmingham drinks. I can never remember. Hold up, I'll get it. But I basically they posed a question. Uh, how does the loss change? Does it change your outlook on the Auburn season? And I said it doesn't, because beforehand, we kind of talked about how Peyton Thorne's just definitely not the guy, and he proved that again
No.
yesterday. But also, is Hugh for all the big deal that people like to make about Hugh Freeze? His biggest moments were a decade ago now, and
Yes.
like we
We get
mentioned in
it.
those two seasons where he beat Alabama and Nick Saban, he still didn't even win the SEC West.
No. Did
Um,
not.
so really, are we sure he's that good? College Sportcast is or actually, that's the guys we're talking to, and this particular handle is Drink Local Beham.
Hmm.
Um, so he posed the question,
Yeah.
and that's what I
Who
said.
knows?
And
Hmm.
yeah, I don't, but I think even we thought that yesterday they'd still handle Cal.
Yeah, I thought they'd at least be 2-0.
Yeah.
I mean, oh, I would have thought playing at home
Hmm.
would have been, enough. Um, but yeah, so now that they get play New Mexico next. Lucky for them,
Which
it's New Mexico and not New Mexico State. But
right, and it's a terrible New Mexico team too. They're not good.
but I
And
will
then
say though, the next 2 weeks are at home. But Arkansas is looking much better. Should have won
feisty,
yesterday.
feisty, yeah,
Arkansas should
yeah.
have won. And then after that, OU comes to town.
And
OU, I don't know what OU was doing yesterday, but they got a quick 14 and then sat on the
yeah,
14 the rest of the day.
yeah, and Houston, that's a Willie Fritz. This boys play tough, but
Yeah,
yeah, that's not, if you're a Tiger fan, that's, yeah, like you said, should be a definitely win next week. It's their homecoming already. I hope so.
wow, yeah.
And then you have
After
like I said, a feisty Arkansas. Sam Pittman knows that he's got to have a good season. They got to turn things around. Like you said,
yeah,
they probably should have won in
they
Stillwater
should have won
yesterday.
the Stillwater. A lot of
Hmm.
oh man, if they had. If they had went up 21-0, I think that would have really changed the
Hmm.
thing. But they got down to the goal line and what they had to pick six, so pretty much a
Hmm.
pick six the other way. But yeah, and then the double overtime. Ah, man, but yeah, that slipped away from them. But a good showing though. I mean, you went into a Big 12 favorite, Stillwater,
Hmm.
double digit point. I think at one point it was 10. I think it came down a little bit, but I mean, a good showing for Sam Pittman. I mean, this is the game last year. This team gets drug.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
So yeah, they get UAB back in Fayetteville next week before coming to Jordan-Hare. So,
mhm.
but yeah, yeah, it was a good showing for them. Like you said, they needed
Yeah.
it. Good showing. Elsewhere, Texas has looked every part
Ooh,
again, national and conference favorite. They went into Ann Arbor and just bullied Michigan.
throttled
Just
Michigan. Yeah.
throttled them. Yeah, just Sark was in his bag. Quinn Ewers looking good. That squad looking good. Um, Michigan could do nothing on the offensive side of the
Yeah.
ball, but it was
Yeah.
really impressive what the Texas offense did to that Michigan defense.
Yeah. Because I mean, that was the thing. Like, a lot of people were like, oh, why is Texas a 7-point favorite? Michigan will be able to shut them down. And yes, they have a good defense. However, when your offense is that bad, eventually against a good, and I thought it was going to be later than what it was. I thought,
Hmm.
eventually Texas is going to wear them down. They're going to be on the field a lot. But Texas got after that defense early. And that was the impressive part. it was over early. They didn't even let Michigan think they were in the game.
Mm-mm. Yeah, no, it was not. Yeah, I didn't watch much of that one because I didn't need to. Uh,
Yeah, but they
uh,
ate them up early, and that was impressive to go into that environment and just dominate them and quiet that crowd real quick.
yeah,
So
they took
took
that
care of
crowd
business.
out. Speaking of offense is looking really good. Tennessee's offense
Oh,
has looked every
ridiculous.
every part of the hype. Now, granted, the competition hasn't been top tier, but they beat a good, an always
I mean, it's
solid NC
solid.
State team yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, Dave Dorn is a good coach.
Mm-hmm.
Now they did struggle in week one against Western Carolina, so I thought that was a little worrisome
Mm-hmm.
coming into to this game. Grayson McCall moving into power football, power conference football. It's been a little tricky, a little tougher for
Mm-hmm.
him when he's a coastal. But if the Tennessee team, if you're 51-10, Nico what 2 touchdowns. I mean, he did have 2 picks, but I mean,
Mm-hmm.
211. I mean, he's living up to everything he's supposed to be. They ran the ball well. He throws the ball. I mean, they throw the ball all over the place. Everybody caught. I mean, they had
Mm-hmm.
what 10. It looks like 8 or 9 receivers had at least a catch there. So I mean, yeah, they're going to be a problem for a lot of teams this year. That
Yeah.
offense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we mentioned they were, also, one of the better receiving corps in the country.
Yeah. And their
So,
defense is maybe a little underrated. And they've
yeah,
been kind
playing
of bad
tough.
under Heupel, but they're so far now. Granted, like you said, competition hasn't been elite, but they showed signs of better defense last year, and they're going to be even better this year. But
Mm-hmm. We'll know more about them in a couple of weeks. They get Kent State at home next week, and then they travel to Norman on the 21st. So,
that'd be
uh,
interesting.
yeah, that'll be a good game to watch.
Yeah.
Elsewhere in the SEC, last weekend to start the season, that Sunday game, LSU lost their fifth
Mm.
straight season opener. That I
Shocking.
heard that. Yeah, I heard that stat and could not believe it.
I had
And
to
sure enough,
go.
yeah,
Yeah.
looking it up, and they sure have not won a season opener since
Since
2019. They beat,
2019.
yeah, that 2019 team. They beat the brakes off Georgia Southern.
Yeah.
But since then, they lost in the COVID year. They lost their first game to Mississippi State. Then
Mm.
they lost at UCLA. Then they lost that wacky Florida State game, and then they lost
Hmm.
another. They got beat down by Florida State last year.
Yeah. So it's been a rough
Um,
go. It
mhm.
probably should have been USC. But they
Probably,
couldn't
but
put it away.
yeah, the defense improved, but still, that last drive, USC just kind of went right down there and put it in the end zone.
Yeah, they did.
Um, and like we said, that I said in the preview, personally, my worry for them was they lost so much production on that offense that. And Nussmeier's looked good. I will say that that's a guy. He's not Jaden Daniels, but nobody is. So,
Nobody is, right?
but they need to find some playmakers and some home
Oh,
run
yeah.
hitters quick because they got a tricky game next week. They go to Columbia in South Carolina, a
And
team
that
who
game's
went to
looking way
Lexington.
bigger. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a South Carolina team that went to Lexington and
The
had their
rivalry.
way with Kentucky.
Hmm.
Um, so LSU's got to, they got to get right. They even struggled for a little bit with Nichols yesterday.
They did.
They finally,
Pulled away second half.
yeah, they finally pulled away, but yeah, that's an early kick, 11 o'clock. Like I said, it's going to be a hostile environment. Uh, LSU better watch
Game
out
day
with
will
that
be
one.
there. I
Yeah,
mean,
game
game day
day,
is going
which
going to
tells you the kind
come.
of week it's going to be. But yeah, so that stadium is going to be loud.
Yes, it
It's
is.
always a
They're
tough place to
gonna.
play, but game day in town, yeah.
And they,
Uh,
they look real pedestrian week one. They
mm-hmm.
struggled a little bit, but man, they came out and just drop. I was That's a hell of a win for Shane Beamer. A lot
Yeah.
of people. we included weren't sure what South Carolina was going to be at all this year.
Mm-hmm.
But to go into Lexington against a well-respected Mark Stoops team, who getting a lot of praise, got their quarterback from Vandergraaf from Georgia. People are high on him and
Mm-hmm.
bottled them 31-6. I mean, that's impressive. And
Yeah.
good way for the Gamecocks to start the season. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens Saturday. Because honestly, again, I don't know. Is South Carolina that good? Is Kentucky maybe not as good as some thought? We saw bits and pieces of LSU looking good against USC, but they're still not a
Mm-hmm.
complete team. I think LSU is going to have to go in there and put them to bed early because South Carolina is a team. If you let them stay around and they're building confidence and they're at home, that crowd's going to go crazy. You don't want to get into late, deep in the weeds in the third and fourth, late third, early fourth quarter, and you're only up three or you're down a couple. Because man, that's tough sledding in Columbia if you get in that type of situation.
Yeah. And for South Carolina too, they're not necessarily desperate to win this game, but their schedule, they get Akron the week after, and then a bye, and then that that October, I think we talked about in
God,
preview.
yeah,
Yeah, Ole Miss, and then at Alabama and at Oklahoma. So you
yeah, they
know,
need it. They
y-
need this.
yeah, if you go into that 4-0, you're feeling a lot better. Even if you
Yeah,
lose all three, you're still 4-3 with a very manageable
right.
last half of the
Back in.
schedule.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but they would love to
uh,
go into that Ole Miss game undefeated. Like
yeah,
that'd be
right. And
huge,
they
huge
get them
for 'em.
in. That's another one in Columbia. So if they're 4-0 unbeaten, Ole
Jeez,
Miss is still unbeaten. That's a huge, huge.
huge game.
Yeah,
Who
but
knows? Game day might be headed. What week
two
is it
times in
now?
Columbia.
And who knows? But yeah, I mean that'd be interesting. But yeah, that'll be a fun one. Um,
um, but yeah, let's see. Elsewhere in the SEC this week, yesterday.
um, you know, SEC wise, I mean, other teams, I mean, we talked about OU struggle. Arkansas should have won.
Hmm.
LSU played Nichols. I mean, they put them away late, but it was close for the first half.
Yeah.
Till they put up 21 in the third. I mean, Texas A&M handled business. I will say, what's his name? I know it was against Stanford, but DJ Lagway's first full game at Florida, he looked good.
Hmm.
456 passing, 3 touchdowns. He might be the guy going forward. It's weird
I
how that
bet
works sometimes.
it's
But
is at least a guy that you want playing some downs. Like it maybe if you even if you go the old school Steve Spurrier rotation there.
right, yeah,
Uh
I don't.
that offense just looks a lot different with him in it. Um
Yeah,
their first week, they got beat pretty handily by Miami.
Miami handled
Um
and all.
yeah, but even when they put Lagway in toward the end of that game after Ertz, got hurt, um man,
It
he's got
looked
something
different.
there. Yeah,
Yeah,
they look
looked
different. He's got
different.
something there. He's got something
He's,
there.
he's talented.
Um, yeah, of course we all know, it's the most brutal schedule in college football, but there's something there with him.
And that'll be an interesting game this coming up weekend. Texas A&M, of course, they, lost week
Mhm,
one. Florida lost week one. They all both bounced back with big, you
mhm.
know, games they should have won. But now A&M goes into the swamp. So I mean
And
that'll be an interesting game
the
Saturday.
swamp will be rocking. They just so hungry for that kind of big win in the
Oh
Billy
yeah,
Napier era. Because
yeah,
yeah, you bounce back if you beat A&M next week. You go on the road to Starkville. They're not looking too
no,
great. They
no.
got bounced by uh,
Arizona State last night.
yeah,
Late.
Arizona State last night. Yeah. Uh, then all of a sudden you could be 3-1 going into your bye, and
Mm-hmm.
then you have UCF at Tennessee and Kentucky for homecoming. You know,
Maybe Kentucky's not looking maybe as good as we had
yeah,
thought, and that's in Gainesville. So I mean that could be a win. And
you could be,
UCF, I mean they could beat them.
yeah. Well, let's say be conservative. Let's say they do win those two home games. They lose the road game at Tennessee. It's still 5-2 going into your bye before the cocktail party.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
that absolutely brutal November, but
yeah, but I mean,
5-2 going into that is a lot better than
oh
you
yeah,
know
yeah,
anything else. Yeah.
exactly. I mean, after week one, I mean, people were thinking, man, will they win anything? You know,
Mm-hmm.
we look at that schedule, but yeah, I mean, if they were to go into the cocktail party 5-2, I mean, that's you couldn't ask for much better than that based on how things started week one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Especially if this Lagway kid, if he all of a sudden just if it clicks,
Yeah,
like we said, they look different. He looks like a star,
yeah,
and Miami fans will also be hoping that he can play a lot and play well because they don't want him transferring after the season.
right.
Um, but yeah, I think other than that, not much to speak of in the SEC yet. Ole Miss has looked great on offense, but they've also
Yeah,
played Middle Tennessee,
nobody.
and yeah, I don't even remember who
Yeah,
they played last week. Um,
yeah. I mean, but they're putting up points, but as they should. I mean, we know how good that offense is, and until they play somebody, you can only take
yeah.
them for what it's worth. And just to throw in there, Vanderbilt is 2-0.
Hey, yeah.
Big
Uh,
win against Tech.
yeah. Surprising win, to a
Yeah,
lot of people over Tech,
right.
but a win is a
Good for
win. Like
them,
you said,
2-0.
2-0, and they go to Georgia State in Atlanta next week.
Nice.
Elsewhere, we mentioned Miami. Cam Ward seems to be the answer to what Mario
Yeah,
Cristobal is looking for there. He has
yeah.
transformed that offense. Of course, they got Damian Martinez running the ball too, big pound. What was that receiver Restrepo?
Yeah,
The hurricane,
Restrepo.
yeah,
Yeah,
the Hurricanes are looking good. It's I think you picked them as your ACC champ, right? Uh,
yeah.
I picked them as my like surprise team for the college football playoff, meaning I think they can make a little bit of noise. And so far, uh, our prediction curse hasn't jinxed them yet.
Nah, so far,
But they,
so
yeah, they
good,
got
but
that win, and they got their schedules real manageable too.
yeah.
Ball State next week, then they go at USF and
Tricky
going
game,
to
but should
tricky
be able to win.
should win. Virginia Tech team that's not definitely not the Virginia Tech of old.
No,
And then at Cal, who feisty, but again, this is a team Miami should beat.
that
That puts you
that
6-0 going into your bye, and when you come back from that, you go at Louisville, then host Florida State. So,
man. But at Louisville is always a tough game
hmm
there.
yeah,
Going to Louisville, but the good thing, yeah, like you said, they're coming off the bye. I think it's much better when you go on against a game with a game like that going into Louisville off a bye,
hmm
because we've seen teams coming off of just a week before, aka Notre Dame last year. Man,
yeah,
Louisville could be a bad spot.
yeah. It's a tough place to play. It's not a.
Yeah.
It looks like it's a Saturday. I was about to say if it's a Thursday night game, it's over.
No, yeah, don't even go.
Yeah. Uh, but yeah, and then let's see, Oregon. Another national title
Mm.
favorite. They're winning. They're looking sluggish
It's
so
not.
far this year.
It's yeah, looking bad. I mean, week one, what was it? Idaho was it Idaho?
Yeah, Idaho,
Was it?
FCS Idaho. They
Yeah.
really
I mean,
struggled with
did
them
it
until late.
struggled with them throughout. Then yesterday, honestly, I started getting sleepy towards the end because it was 1 o'clock.
Hmm
But that
It
that
looked like
one,
It looked like a Boise team of old. They were not afraid. They were making
right?
big plays.
They were.
Um,
And then, I mean, Oregon looks fast on it when they get the ball out,
yeah, they do.
but they're fast. But they do, man, I'm shocked that the offensive line struggled like they did. The defense has struggled.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is like the week prior, like Boise State, when they went against Georgia Southern, or was it, I forget, it was Georgia Southern. I always get Georgia Southern and Georgia State mixed
It
up.
was Southern.
Southern, yeah. But either way, they passed all over Boise State. And I
Mm-hmm.
really thought Oregon's gonna bounce back well against this Boise State defense. I mean, they gave up like 350, 400 yard passing the
Mm-hmm.
previous week. So I thought, man, Georgia, this is gonna be a big bounce back for Oregon. And I mean, they put up 37, but I mean, it was a last second field goal. Definitely not the spread. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, another home game in Eugene. And so, you know, we, they're 2-0, but man, not exactly where we'd expect Oregon to be based upon the hype of the season so far coming into
Yeah,
the
no.
season.
And we'll find out if that speaks more to like, is Oregon struggling, or is maybe, hey, maybe Boise State's kind of back,
Yeah,
so to
who
say.
knows?
You look at their schedule, that easy, they could win out, finish 11-1,
Yeah,
and then you have that, all you got to do is win your Mountain West title, and then you're a playoff
Mm,
team.
yeah,
That looks like a squad that, you probably don't want to play in a first round playoff game.
no,
Um, but yeah, their schedule sets up. They really don't have any more tests. They get Washington State and Oregon State. They play them both, but at home. Um, and they do have to go at UNLV.
yeah.
Road trip to at Hawaii. Hawaii's not the Hawaii
Uh,
of old, but that's always,
I mean,
it could always be tricky.
probably strange going out there, but yeah, I mean, nothing
Mhm.
to nothing. If the Boise State that we saw last night in Eugene, they play
Mhm.
like that weekly, should have a pretty. I mean, they should be very successful for the rest of their season, man.
Yeah, and then Oregon. Um,
Mm,
yeah, we said they're gonna hit that meet. They get Civil War next week, man.
yeah,
It'll be weird. We see
weird that it's
that.
in
Yeah,
September, but
yeah. We see the Civil War and the Apple Cup next weekend.
how
Um,
weird, very weird.
and they got to go to Corvallis. So,
Yeah,
Oregon State.
they would love to, because
Mhm.
this is the only is this is a 1 year thing, right? I don't think they play again.
Yeah, they don't have a set schedule. I think like the Apple Cup does,
Yeah,
but
man, they
yeah,
would
it's
love to stick it to Oregon.
yeah. They Oregon State don't know much about them yet this year. They 21-0 win at San Diego State last night, and then
Yeah,
beat Idaho State in the opener. So
yeah, don't know much
uh, we'll
about them,
see.
but
Yeah. Um, Other than that, I didn't really have anything big from the rest of college football just yet. Anything else you wanted to hit?
would like man, the way Nebraska dominated
Mm,
Colorado was impressive.
mhm.
I thought it was gonna be a shootout type because I thought
Me too.
based upon Colorado's defense that Dylan Raiola was that offense was gonna get some points, but I did not think that they were gonna shut down Colorado's offense like they did.
Mm-mm.
Shador's standards did not look good at all. They frustrated them. They got after them, and they really took it to Colorado, man. So. I mean, and now there's a lot of talk, and now the pressure builds on Nebraska. I mean, they're ranked now, um, but now people are talking. Oh man, they could be going into Columbus undefeated at 7-0, which at this
Woo.
point, that's like Nick Saban would say, a little rat poison considering the struggles that Nebraska's had over the last
Mm-hmm.
5, 10 years. Because again, they have not been into a bowl since 2016. So I mean, it's been a struggle.
Yeah, let's
But
let's let's worry about your next opponent. Northern
right,
Iowa's next. Don't look
yeah,
past them.
all right. But kudos to them. They got off the schneid there, lost like three in a row to Colorado. Um, but I mean, they're looking much different than what they have been to the. And they seem to have the right quarterback, the right coach. So it'll be interesting to see what they do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a good call on that. That was I expected it's just like you to see some fireworks, and Nebraska just made that a
Oof,
good, boring game.
took it to 'em. Yeah.
But yeah, let's well, I guess real quick we can look ahead to next week. There's not really just not much. We mentioned game days going to Columbia for LSU, South Carolina. Uh,
But in those weeks that it doesn't look like very sexy
that's a,
is when the weird
yeah,
and the craziness happens.
that's
So
in the weird. Yeah, we do have. Let's see, Friday night. There's should be a fun Arizona at Kansas State game.
that could be a very entertaining game.
Mm-hmm.
Also, that two interesting games. UNLV going to Kansas. UNLV has
Mhm.
been putting up monster numbers. Like they slaughtered Houston, and then they
Mhm.
slaughtered somebody last night. Kansas coming off the loss to Illinois. UNLV goes into Kansas and gets that win. Watch out, the Rebels.
Yeah, that is a yeah,
They put
an
out,
interesting. That's an interesting game. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, they
Yeah,
beat
72 points
Houston
last night.
72 points last night. And they have probably the most legit celebration ever. The slot machine on the sideline when they get the turnovers. That's hilarious.
Mhm. The slot, yeah, it's great. The slot machine. And then Saturday we are, of course, we mentioned Alabama, Wisconsin, LSU, South Carolina, Memphis, Florida State,
Hmm.
Boston College at Missouri is now suddenly a very
Oh,
interesting game.
that is interesting. Yeah,
Yeah,
very interesting.
another early one, 11:45 Central Time.
Hmm.
Uh, Oklahoma now gets Tulane. Not the same Tulane team. Not the Cotton Bowl champs, but still, after
Still
how
a
sluggish they looked
formidable
yesterday.
opponent.
Yeah.
And, that's
We.
a Tulane team that
Mhm.
could have won. They,
Yeah.
they could have beat Kansas State yesterday.
Man, I didn't. I bet a lot of Tulane fans would argue very questionable offensive pass interference call
Yeah,
in that one.
I'd say so.
Yeah.
And they
We
put up
mentioned
a
the
good
Apple
fight.
Cup, and yeah, they do. We mentioned the Apple Cup and Civil War, another big rivalry. The Backyard Brawl is next week.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, Texas A&M at Florida. We mentioned.
So it's
Um,
actually a pretty interesting week.
yeah, I was about to say
Uh,
there's a lot of. It's not like a lot of heavyweight
It's not the
bouts.
sexiest, but I mean it's
A lot of
entertaining.
interesting. Yeah, just a lot
Yeah.
of entertaining. Like kind of things that UCLA plays their first Big Ten game. They host Indiana. Let's see,
Still, it's still
Colorado.
so weird to say that.
Yeah, right. It doesn't feel right. Colorado and Colorado State. Remember the great game from last year? That
Yeah.
Colorado's got to go to Fort Collins now, and
Mm.
after that,
And they would
kind of
love to get revenge there.
yeah, you gotta bounce back too if you're
Yeah.
Colorado because you don't want that
You don't
Nebraska
want
loss
to.
to snowball.
Yeah, because I mean it could get bad quickly.
Hmm.
I mean, we saw them blow out Nebraska last year, and they squeaked by Colorado State, and it was that little
Hmm.
chippiness after that game. Jay Norvell was, I think that's his name for Colorado State. Coach
Yeah.
was got pretty chippy there at the end. And man, yeah, it's going to be in Fort Collins. We know there's no love between the two programs, so that could be interesting. At
Hmm.
one point, Georgia going to Kentucky seemed interesting, but after South Carolina went into Lexington, that's lost
Yeah.
all of its luster.
That
Um,
might be a blowout in prime time next week.
yeah. And then, another interesting Big 12 matchup, UCF going to Fort Worth to play the Frogs. That'll be
Hmm.
interesting. Because I really want to see. I haven't watched UCF at all, but I really they've won. I mean, they haven't played anybody, but they've been putting up points. Um,
Hmm. Yeah, Gus Bus is
57
rolling.
against New Hampshire, 45 against Sam Houston. So man, but I mean,
Well,
if
yeah,
they go in,
we mentioned KJ Jefferson was a great get for that offense.
man,
So
it was. And they
yeah,
got yeah, I mean KJ definitely we know Gus loves his mobile quarterback, so
hmm
so that'll be interesting. But yeah, not the sexiest lineup, but a very interesting week 3. We'll learn a lot about a lot of teams.
for sure. Yeah, let's move on to the NFL before we go here.
Hmm.
First Sunday of action, of course, was today. We also had games Thursday night, Friday night. Already a game of the year candidate Thursday night, Ravens at Chiefs. Is
Hmm.
everything I think anyone hoped for. The Ravens literally a toe short, I
Oh
guess.
wow,
Isaiah
yeah.
Likely's literally just
Oh
his
my
big
gosh,
toe was out of bounds, and they were
that
going to
was
go for the
so
win
so.
too.
Oh,
Um,
they were going for 2. I was like, whoa, look at John. He
oh, I
said
knew it. I knew it when we got down in the red zone. I was like, okay, so
he
if
was
we
going for
score here,
6.
John's definitely going for two.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean
it's
nothing
a
to
shame.
lose. I
Shame
mean
we didn't get
it's
to see that play. Yeah, it's the first week
yeah
one. There's no shame losing to
on the
defending
road in
champs.
Kansas City. Yeah, I mean
Um,
So that,
Ronnie Stanley had some things to say about the rest after the game, about how apparently illegal formations are going to be a focus this year, and they thought he was lining up too far back on the line. And then he was saying, and some video evidence has seemed to corroborate that KC's tackles are lining up just as far back, and they didn't get a single one of those calls. So
yeah,
uh, that's something
and
for
then
the Chiefs get all the calls
the
based to just
conspiracy theorists are running
yeah
wild. I
more fuel
know
to that fire. Yeah.
people are also pissed off about, even though if you see the whole thing, Andy Reid also called the timeout, but people were pissed off because they thought
Oh
Spagnola
yeah.
had called the timeout there, even though that worked out for the Ravens with them with
Yeah.
the timeout. But and people are like, why does he get? Why do they acknowledge his timeout? The DC can't call the timeout. And I say, well, people are running wild with that. But yeah, when you win in two Super Bowls, 3 out of 5 and stuff, yeah, people see stuff and they're like, wait a minute, they get all the calls.
Hmm.
And it does seem like that at times. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I will say as a Ravens fan, that line really concerns me because they were, they kind of figured it out second half. They made a lot of adjustments. Lamar looked better, but
mhm,
Lamar was running for his life.
he was.
He did not have a lot of time to throw things and set up
No, he
routes. They
didn't.
didn't really block well for Derrick Henry outside of that first
No,
drive. I thought
yeah,
um, I thought Lamar had to run too much, and maybe that was just kind of, hey, it's a big game, it's Kansas City, do whatever you can,
yeah,
but you don't want to see Lamar running 16 times every game. You
yeah.
want Derrick
The
Henry toting
game,
the rock, yeah.
right? The game plan sadly look resemblance of the AFC title game. I thought that they forced things that they didn't necessarily have to
Hmm.
force, and I don't know, but it's week one. I don't know how much you take from week one. Of
Yeah,
course, everybody's gonna overreact as always. So, but for
yeah,
now, unfortunately, Mahomes has Lamar's number, and that's the thing. He's not.
hmm
We've seen it with other quarterbacks. For a while, Josh Allen's still trying to get over, find a way to beat
yeah,
Mahomes.
yeah.
So,
We saw it with Manning and Brady forever. Peyton
yeah,
couldn't beat him, and it comes down to some coaching too. It's Andy Reid's
right,
got John Harbaugh's number.
yeah. I
So
mean,
we'll
but
see. This is
then again, I mean, the Chiefs are. I mean, the Ravens are right there, but I mean, the
mhm.
Chiefs. That's why they won back-to-back Super Bowls because
Yeah,
they're just that
it's
team right
exactly
now.
yeah. It's and it's a team thing. You mentioned it well. It's top down, coaching on down, and Lamar played like an MVP. He did everything he could.
Hmm.
Derrick Henry had a touchdown. Like, you would have liked to see a little
Yeah,
bit more of him. But again, the line is worrisome if you're a Ravens fan.
yeah, no,
Isaiah likely came out of it looking like another star tight end for them.
they did.
Um,
He kind of looked like he took Mark Andrews' touches a little bit, but
yeah, yeah. So, but that could be something if Munkin can work some more two tight end sets or just a good
right,
rotation or line
yeah,
Isaiah. I mean, likely's
right.
got some receiver type speed so he could be
He's a
like,
talented guy.
yeah, line
Yeah,
him up on the outside. You can get
for
creative with
sure,
those two on the field. And
most
Zay
definitely.
Flowers looks every bit the number one receiver they hope he will. Rashard
Yeah,
Bateman makes a couple good
a big
catches in that
catch at
game.
he had a
Yeah,
big the last drive. He had a
yeah,
huge for
huge
sure.
catch. Yeah, Lamar did miss a couple throws before that last one. Everyone
Oh,
talks
that
about the
one.
second down to Zay Flowers in the back of the end
Oh
zone. I
man,
don't think that one is actually not. I'm not. That one's heartbreaking because he was so wide open. But I
yeah,
don't think that was so much a bad throw as he thought that Zay Flowers was going to sit down and Zay kept going,
right,
and that's all
right.
that was because
I
you could just tell how he threw it. He didn't miss him that
yeah,
bad. He just thought he was sitting
no,
down. That first down one to Likely where it looked like Likely hurt his shoulder.
yeah,
Oh man, Lamar had him in the corner. He
yeah.
just
He
put a little
did.
too much on it, and
Yeah,
um, but yeah, he played like an MVP. Defense held up pretty fairly well against
he did.
KC. KC, my takeaway from them, like we said, week one, you can only take so much. But my takeaway from them is, damn it, they look dangerous again, and I mean like
Man,
speedy.
they
Xavier Worthy on that offense is unfair. Um,
like the people been saying, how did why would Buffalo trade with the Chiefs to
mm.
give them the opportunity to get Xavier Worthy? Like, what are you doing?
Rasheed Rice still looks like a stud. We'll see whatever
And they didn't
happens
even
with
have
any.
Hollywood Brown.
And I was just about to say that Hollywood Brown is still on the shelf for a couple of weeks. Once they get
Jeez.
him, and
And
then
if he's healthy,
Pacheco with
oh my
Kelsey,
God.
I mean, yeah, that means Kelsey doesn't have to take on the load that he
No.
normally would, so he can stay fresher. Man, that offense is scary looking, and the defense is good, man.
Yeah. So
They look
they're
better against the run this year. So,
yeah. Man, they could man, I don't know. We've
but
never seen a three-peat before in the NFL, but
mm,
man,
they're
if
gonna,
anybody's
yeah.
gonna do it, they're gonna press hard. I mean, if
But
they're gonna
also,
lose, it's gonna be AFC Championship Super Bowl. I mean, it's not gonna be anything
yeah,
earlier. I
no,
don't think.
no. I would not be surprised if we get another Baltimore KC game in the playoffs
Yeah,
this year.
yeah,
It was a weekend of good close games. So Friday night in Brazil, for some reason, the Packers and Eagles played a good one. Saquon Barkley looks
man,
like just a great
good
pickup for the
God.
Eagles. Jalen Hurts, kind of average game, didn't look great.
Couple
Mm,
picks, couple
yeah,
touchdowns. Did some good things,
yeah,
but
did some good things, did some bad things, but Saquon Barkley looked every bit like
I, yeah.
a key cog.
If you're a Giants fan, how pissed are you about that?
I hate it, right? That mm.
Not only did
Jor-
you, I'm sorry, what's up with division rivals or conference rivals trading with each other? Like, what is going on?
yeah,
Like,
no,
that should
or
not ever happen.
or even like if you let your guy leave in free agency, try to get on good terms with him so you can at least have like an agreement. Be like, hey man, do us a favor, don't go anywhere in the division.
Right. Because
Because it's Saquon's came out and said the reason he signed with the Eagles is basically kind of to spite the Giants because he didn't like how
yeah,
they handled his situation, right? So
yeah. So that's not
that's
good.
huge. Yeah, and then
Yeah,
you know it's also pisses off your the other teams. You're a Cowboys fan. It pisses you
yeah.
off that he didn't leave the division either.
No,
Um,
I mean you don't want to see that guy stay in your
mm,
division. See him 2 times a year on a
yeah,
better team now.
yeah. And speaking of your Cowboys, good start for them. Dax and
Was
CD Lamb both get paid. Dax literally got paid this morning.
yeah.
Um,
About
and then
about an hour before the game.
yeah, and then they
And
went
then
to Cleveland and stomped the Browns.
yeah, they did. The
Ooh, I
defense
tell you
looked
what.
nasty. The defense looked nasty. I like the new defensive coordinator. I
Hmm.
really, I think he is going to make our defense better than what it has been. I mean, it's been good, but I think is going to put players in better spots. Um, and we're going to be better at stopping the run. Now, we'll say week one, I mean, Cleveland was missing both their tackles, starting tackles. So, I mean, that
Hmm.
changes a little bit. But, man, we got after them. I wasn't very, I wasn't very, I picked, the column, I picked for Cleveland to win.
Hmm.
Just because didn't know how, with the quarterback, with the contract situations, how that affects folks. But that all got sorted out last second. So I mean, everybody appears to be on the same page. The offense I thought was the defense was electric. Got the big punt return. But man, we gotta. Our kicker is a beast. Aubrey is a beast. That
Oh yeah,
man,
he's
he
got a
even hit the
leg.
66. They got the penalty, and they
I
thought
was so
about just
mad they didn't let him go for
let
71,
him
man.
kick. Just let him try it. I
It
mean,
was the end of
it was the end
right
of the. Just
end of
let
the
him
half.
try
Yeah,
it. He might have hit it.
yeah. He had the wind at his back, man. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
mad they pulled him off the field. They
Ah.
thought too
Yeah.
much about it.
Yeah. Just let
Um,
him go. But
no, top down is good. Special teams, Turbin, that big punt return touchdown.
yeah.
Your
So I
defense,
mean,
Trayvon Diggs looked like he is 100% back already. He was
yeah,
flying,
he
man.
looked good. He looked
Um,
good. I thought Michael was a good spots.
mhm.
I will say, just as a fan, I can't stand Tom Brady's voice.
I wasn't impressed by his first. He didn't get
Yeah,
excited for much. He was
he
kind
might
of,
he might
yeah,
evolve. I mean, he may evolve. I mean, it's new to him.
yeah. I mean,
Obviously, he has
it's,
a mind of a, but
I'd about to say,
I
yeah,
don't know.
game one, meh, meh. I'll say that.
His voice. You just hear him. at short term, you don't think about it, but for 3 hours, I was like, man, his voice is really getting to me.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
I really liked, Greg Olson there at the
Hmm.
one, and he got bumped down to the two spot. But I thought he was doing a hell of a job, and it's kind of messed up. I know Tom Brady's a superstar, but yikes, I'm sure he'll get
Yeah.
better. But he doesn't have the likability that even like Tony Romo had right out the gate,
Yeah.
and Troy, other quarterbacks that have, kind of even. I don't know. He doesn't. I don't know if he has a personality for it.
I'm about to
It
say
seems.
he's a little too robotic.
Yeah, but
But yeah, like you said, it's young, and he's the type of guy that is going to work hard at it.
yeah, he's gonna work hard at it. But we
So
know
and like you
that. But
said, his knowledge alone, it's
it's
um,
vast.
yeah, it's almost like it's one of those sure things, like Nick Saban on game day and stuff. Is just he's so smart that if he just needs to let go, like
Yeah,
Saban
just
does,
have
enjoy
fun.
your retirement, yeah, have fun with it.
Yeah,
Elsewhere, that like I said, is just a great
that
Sunday of
was that
football.
was entertaining. A lot of entertaining games.
Yeah, a lot of entertaining. We're watching the end of one right now as we record. It's the end of the Sunday night game. The
Yeah,
Rams are
20 to 17.
yeah, with little over 2 minutes left in Detroit as Detroit gets the ball, trying to drive for the tire win.
Excuse me.
Let's see. Elsewhere in the AFC North, a big story. Cincinnati beat by the Patriots,
Wow,
destroying Survivor eliminator pools everywhere, including
everywhere.
mine. Yeah, that Cincinnati was my pick this
They just
week.
see.
Yeah.
I went with the most short thing. I went with the Saints.
Yeah, I thought about it, but I was, I was like,
I
I
was thinking,
just
but
could,
I thought Saints
I
at
couldn't trust the
home.
Saints as much.
Yeah.
I was like, it would be a very Saints thing to fuck around and lose, but
Yeah,
no,
it
yeah,
would be.
they
No,
dominated.
they,
The
yeah, that's
Panthers are
bad.
terrible. That's a bad roster overall.
Yeah.
Poor Bryce has no help there.
And man, you knew it was gonna be a long day when he threw a pick on his first pass of the game. I was like, oh, it's
Yes,
gonna be a long day for
long
Carolina.
day, long season, because people are those bus conversations are gonna start
No,
right up
already
again.
they've already started. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, but there's nothing in Carolina. They're a horrible team. I mean, if you're gonna do your eliminator challenge.
Yeah.
Pick against them as many times as possible. You
Mhm.
can only do the division opponents once, but I would say you have a good chance of having a hell of a run going against whoever is playing the
Yeah.
Panthers this year.
Yeah, that's my strategy for fantasy football this year. I'm just going to stream whatever defense is playing the Panthers as much as I can.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
because they're
I had
bad.
I had
They're
the
bad.
Saints defense today, so yeah.
Yeah, they put up numbers.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, other great games: Miami, Jacksonville.
Oh,
I mean,
great
that
one. Yeah.
was great ending. Weird, crazy going into that game. Tyreek Hill getting arrested as he's pulling into
Yeah.
the stadium. I don't know the full story per se, but
His
you know,
agent Drew Rosenhaus out
was in
there
the
helping
car
him.
with them. He rode to
Yeah.
the game with them. Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah, that was
crazy.
some yeah, a lot of good games. Bills Cardinals was a good comeback.
It was. Houston, Indianapolis ended up being a good game.
That was Titans and Bears ended up being a fun one to watch.
Man,
Caleb Williams debut, he looked meh, but the
he looked
Bears
man.
defense and special teams bailed him
Yeah, it
out.
came through. But yeah, it was Tennessee was up 17-0 at some point, right?
Yeah, 17-0, and the Bears reeled off
Yeah,
24 straight, including that
yeah, but
block punt for a touchdown, scored
and
by Mr. Simone Biles.
yeah,
Um, the pick six off that terrible throw by Levis.
yeah, but
Yeah,
that
Will
was a
Levis.
bad situation. I mean, for Caleb Williams though. But as much as on paper, even though he's a rookie quarterback, you look at their roster and you're like, man, the Bears have quite a few offensive talent, and he had no scores on the offensive side.
Mm-hmm.
He
So
was
yeah,
14 to 29, 93 yards. At least he had no
yeah,
picks, but yeah, not a very impressive
but yeah,
debut.
but they got the win.
Got the win. That's most important.
elsewhere, another team that didn't score a touchdown but won, the Steelers,
Yeah.
6
Was it
field
six
goals
field
beat
goals?
the Falcons. That doesn't say much for this supposedly, explosive
No, it
Falcon
doesn't.
offense. Now, granted, Pittsburgh might have the best defense in the league, but
That was,
uh,
yeah, I mean,
you can't. If you hold a team without a touchdown, you got to beat them, plain and simple.
yeah,
Um,
there's no reason NFL team should ever lose to a team if they
mhm,
don't score a
yeah.
touchdown. But
So
at least Kyle
disappointing.
Pitts did get a touchdown there, so they unlocked him
Yeah.
a little bit. But yeah, I mean, overall, as many weapons as there is in Atlanta right now, there's no. I don't care how good the defense is. At no point should the
hmm
Falcons only have 10 points on a game. I'm sorry, there's
Yeah.
way too much talent there. Um, that
No, yeah,
that
that's the reason you paid all that money to Kirk Cousins to come in and get those deep balls to Drake London
he
to
didn't. Yeah, and he
not
looked. I mean, of
very
course, he's
average.
coming off the injury, and he didn't play much in the. But
And I've
man,
seen some former players online talking about how that's what they were looking at. It looks like he doesn't quite have that strength back in his foot yet,
yeah.
his Achilles. So
But
we'll see if that develops.
16, 26, 155, 2 picks, 1 TD. Not what you're looking for. Justin Fields got the start. I mean, it wasn't anything sexy, but hey, Steelers start off 1-0, so kudos to him. If
Yeah.
you can win without scoring a touchdown, hey, whatever
Mhm.
works, right?
Yeah, exactly. Speaking about something worrying. But getting back to that Cincinnati game, since we didn't get a preview in, the one thing I stayed away from Cincy players in fantasy drafts, and I'm just kind of wary of them in the long haul because I think there's a little something underlined with Joe Burrow's wrist injury, and I think it's just something to
Yeah,
watch in Cincinnati this year. I think
yeah,
hopefully it's not a career threatening type thing where it derails
yeah.
what could be a great career, but I think
Right.
there's some
More to it.
there's under the surface, things simmering in that
'Cause he just
Cincinnati
does not
locker.
look the same. He has not looked the
Uh-uh.
same since that injury.
No.
Jamar Chase has been very unhappy. The people
Yeah.
didn't even know if Jamar was going to play today until he said he
Yeah,
was
right.
going to play. Like, and it's not even that he, coming off of not playing off the season. It was his choice, and he's basically saying, "Hey, I want to get paid." What? Like
Yeah.
that's man. I don't know. T. Higgins is not healthy. Um,
Mm-mm.
so yeah, it might be a long, long year in depending on what they do going forward. A long year
Mhm.
in Cincinnati, and a horrible way to start the year against arguably what people thought was going to be the worst team.
In the
And
league,
I mean,
yeah.
they could
Uh,
be. I mean, they still could be, but that's a horrible way to start if you're Cincinnati. And
yeah.
what many people thought they might have a run this year.
Yeah. And like you said, it's just not good. It's something worrisome to look,
Yeah.
again, it's week 1, so, things change, but
That's the thing
it's
with the
just something to pay attention to. It's
right.
one of those
I
things where
mean,
you look at and you go, okay, like let me make a note
right.
about this.
Yeah.
And then of course tomorrow night, Monday night, San Francisco and the Jets play. We'll see. Aaron Rodgers is back.
Hopefully,
The
lasts more than one play this
Yeah,
year.
exactly.
Was that Monday Night Football last year as well,
I
or was
think
that
it
Sunday?
was. Yeah, I think it
It was
was
either Sunday or Monday night. He
Monday. It
ran
was
out with the
prime time. Yeah,
flag and had one play, and that was it.
four plays in. Yeah, 4 plays into his.
Jeez,
Uh,
all the
yeah.
hype,
So
all
yeah,
the hype
the
was there.
Jets, a talented roster there, but we'll see.
Talented
There's
team. Yeah,
is Robert Sala really the guy they need leading them? And
I'm not sold on them, but
just
then
and
again,
Rogers, that's a tough injury. We mentioned Kirk Cousins coming back from the same injury. We'll see how
but
Rogers
Rodgers
looks.
is older, way
Yeah,
older. Right.
very much older, but he does have, Brees Hall, Garrett Wilson. He's got
There's
weapons
a
around
lot
him
of
too.
talent, a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah,
talent. And if there's anybody that's gonna come back, he's an older guy, but he worked hard as hell to get back from that
hmm
Achilles. I mean, he was
yeah,
doing a lot of stuff way ahead of time. So that'll be interesting. But going up against that 49er defense is always a tough task. They got all their contract situations figured out with Ayuk and Trent Williams. So
Hmm.
they're back to being a team that's they're of course another NFC favorite. So that'll be an interesting game tomorrow night. Of
Hmm.
course, we have this with the 23 seconds.
Yeah, this Sunday
Detroit.
night game's exciting.
Yeah,
Detroit's down
yeah,
here facing a 3rd and 5 coming up, and they're in the red zone, or at least right on
yeah.
the cusp of it.
Right on the cusp of where they need to
Uh,
be to at least kick the field
yeah,
goal.
I thought Jameson should actually maybe cut upfield on that last play.
Yeah,
But he's
yeah,
looked
for
good
sure.
tonight. He's looked
He
like
has like
he's.
a
Yeah, he's. We talked about him in the past. If he gets back to that Jameson Williams from Alabama, that is a
oh yeah,
hell of a weapon to add to that
it
Detroit
really is.
offense. Uh,
Detroit's a fun team. You
mhm.
gotta like their coach and his
Oh yeah.
personality. And then there are quite a few Alabama guys. So I mean, they're a team
Hmm.
I kind of enjoy watching just because.
Yeah.
I mean,
Classic uniforms, great color combination.
where they're at the 15-yard line right now. 20
Yeah.
seconds. Let's see.
Oh, oh.
Oh,
Mm, bad throw there. Not sure
mm,
Gibbs could have really done anything with that, but
no. There we go with the kick.
yeah, it looks like they'll kick it, and then the
Oof.
Rams will have around 15 seconds or so to see if they do anything here.
More overtime. What do you think about that? I know everybody's been talking about it, but I didn't watch a lot of preseason, honestly. But it's just so weird watching the on the kickoffs
The new
when no
kicks,
one move into. So weird
it's
to see.
it's weird. It's different. Statistically, it seems that it's creating more returns this year
Yeah,
and better starting field position. So I guess that's what they were going for.
yeah, but because
The
what is
field
it?
goal.
If they kick it out the back of the end zone, they automatically start at the 30 now or
I had something weird.
35,
Yeah,
or
like and it
they
has to
moved it
land
up.
in the. You have to catch it if it's in that landing zone, or I
Yeah,
don't know. It's some weird, but
just so much to it to, I guess, make things
yeah.
more fun for teams. But
Hmm. Uh, but yeah, let's see. That's probably good for the NFL talk for the week. Of course, we mentioned Monday night. Let's see. Is anything going on next week for the
well, I
NFL?
would say probably, I guess, the Jordan Love injury. That's a tough
Yeah,
injury.
that's. I meant to get to that.
Got
Yeah.
hurt. Got hurt the last play, pretty
Last
much of the
play.
game there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's tough. Luckily, it doesn't seem to be a. At first, I thought it was Achilles or something
Yeah, the
terrible.
way he grabbed it, it looked like he was a season ender.
But
It
it's
just
not
looks
as
like he'll be out
bad.
about 4 weeks, is
Three,
what they
four,
said.
yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
You hate to see anybody get injured, but I guess if there's going to be injury, it's not nearly as bad as what we thought. But what's his name came into and out of nowhere came into a great situation for Malik Willis. Gets a couple weeks to
Is
lead
that
the
their
team
backup?
there.
Okay.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
signed him because they didn't like what they got out the preseason with the guy from Penn State and I forget who the other guy was. Um, they
Hmm.
didn't like either one of those. Got Malik Willis. He gets a couple weeks. And long term, of course, he's not going to be the guy in Green Bay, but I'm sure he would like another opportunity as a one
Hmm.
somewhere because I just didn't think that it was a weird pick for the Titans to take him, and then
Yeah.
they moved away from him so fast. Like
Hmm.
there was no patience, and they just, oh well, we're on to Will Levis now. It's like, but you just drafted Malik and really didn't have anything to around him and gave him
Hmm.
nothing, and I don't know. That was weird. I thought that they well, didn't even really give him a chance to even see what he was made of. But
No, and there's plenty of weapons around him to succeed in that uh, offense. There,
yeah,
Josh
Green Bay
Jacobs
offense. Yeah,
started slow, but had a great second half. He looks like
right.
he's.
Yeah, they
Um,
have a good young
mhm.
receiving core there in Green Bay. So hopefully Malik, has a couple of good weeks and eventually gets another opportunity as a starting quarterback. Because I thought he got quite the short end of the stick in Tennessee. I
Oh, for
mean,
sure.
he
And
didn't
like you
always
said,
play
it was a weird situation to go into anyway
yeah,
because it wasn't an offense made for
yeah,
him.
it wasn't no at all.
Um, we did mention too. We forgot to mention all our great games. It was a great late window game. Seattle and Denver played a pretty good
Yes,
one.
it
Um,
was. You know,
Kenneth
Denver
Walker had himself a
is a
game.
beast. Yeah,
Yeah.
when he's healthy, and that's his biggest thing. Can he stay healthy? But when he's
Hmm.
healthy, he is a hell of a running back.
Yeah.
Um,
Elsewhere in the world of sports, or what? Do you have something else in the NFL?
no, I'm just gonna say about the Broncos. I
Hmm.
mean, they may. I don't know how many games they're gonna win, but they're not gonna be an easy out. I think
No,
that
yeah,
they're.
and Bo Nix is going to be Bo Nix. He's going to run around. He's going to
Yeah,
make shit happen. He's going to
yeah,
You're going to have good Bo and bad Bo, but if he can play
if he
more like
can,
Oregon Bo, then
yeah,
that's as much
he
as
could
you
be.
can ask for.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, Now, I was just say elsewhere in the world of sports, today is the last ever game for Alex Morgan.
Yeah.
Definitely in the discussion for best American soccer player of all time, men or
Oh, for
women.
sure.
Yeah, no doubt. Pretty strong case for being number one.
Oh, most
Uh,
definitely.
yeah. Josh Allen did hurt his hand today, so they're going to
Yeah.
see about that. What happens? Shohei Otani just keeps hitting home runs. He's
Yes.
looking to be a 50-50 club member.
Jeez.
Um,
That's
yeah,
the guy
just
with a torn
absolute.
rotator.
Yeah, right. That's insane. WNBA season is getting toward its stretch run and looking good.
It sucks
Unfortunately,
that yeah.
Angel Reese out for the season.
Mm.
Um, I don't think
Had a
they
good.
were in a threat of making the
They
playoffs,
weren't a
though, were they?
contender, but she said no.
Yeah.
They're not
Hmm.
nearly were in the contention. But of course, talking WNBA, I mean, Caitlin Clark has really stepped in this since coming back from the Olympics, she's gone to a different level. Like she's
Mm-hmm.
been ridiculous as of late. They have Indiana in the playoff hunt right now. Like it's like complete turnaround. Like man, she's living up to the hype so far.
Yeah.
Whatever
Um,
she's living up to it.
yeah, and then of course now we're in the last month of Major League Baseball play. About 20 or so games left for everybody.
Mhm.
Some tight races. Your Yanks in are a tight one for the AL East.
Yeah, yeah.
You, you
We
know,
don't. We don't. Nobody wants to win the AL East. Like
no,
we'll
yeah.
go on a little run. The Orioles will go on a run, and then we'll lose. We'll lose some dumb games. Like it's
Hmm.
like nobody wants the East for real.
I know, and it's looking. The AL's got four or three division races. Cleveland's up 2.5 on KC in the Central. Houston's up 4.5 on Seattle in the West. All those divisions are up for grabs. Nationally, less so. Philly's got a 7-game
Yeah,
lead
seven.
there. Milwaukee's got a 9-game lead. The Dodgers have a 6-game lead.
Yeah, so I mean,
Uh,
they'd
the
have to
wild
have
card,
major.
yeah,
They'd have to have major flop.
yeah, the wild card race is where that is right there. The
Yeah,
Mets, Braves, D-backs, and Padres all within 2 games of each other. Uh,
that's
the, yeah.
That's I mean that's just great. You get into the wild card. I mean that's the
Hmm.
beauty of the end of the regular. That's probably the best part of course, the regular season with baseball. Just that last push for those wild cards because you get some epic games, and
Hmm.
then of course they have the schedule set, so it always works that the teams seem to go up against each other late in the season. So
Hmm.
more or less
Um,
for sure play their way in.
yeah, but I think it does it for everything I have. Do you have anything else in the sports world?
I think we had a lot to talk about, but I think we
Mm.
covered most everything.
Yeah, so we'll be back next week for we'll talk Alabama, Wisconsin, college football. We'll talk week 2 in the NFL, and any big developments elsewhere in sports.
Well,
So, Greg, what has been done up real good for you lately?
I guess just keep it in sports related. I mean, just another, just to have the full NFL slate, another full college football weekend. Couldn't ask for, in a sports fan, you can't ask for too much. too much more than that. I mean, it's a great. I'm not always the biggest opening part of the NFL season just because so many weeks. So what does week one really mean? But I mean, for what it was worth, it was a very entertaining week. So it's just a great football weekend. Can't ask for more. How about
Yeah,
you?
I'll echo that right there. It's football season. It's been great. Last Saturday, I was out of state working, but I was able to be somewhere with games on all day.
Right.
So, um, and today
And
was a
just
nice day. Yeah, it's just nice to have football back.
I mean, you can, college, you can go to basically 11 a.m. to almost 2 in the morning with college
Hmm.
football with those
Yeah,
late West Coast games. And then, of course, NFL basically noon to what would probably over about 10 o'clock tonight after this overtime. So, I
yeah.
mean, you basically have 12 to 14 hours in football over your weekend.
Hmm.
The honey to do list or sorry, women.
Yeah,
Those honey to do lists are gonna start getting longer and pushed off to the spring.
yeah. You gotta find your windows to do stuff during
Right.
the week.
Uh,
But yeah, no. Yeah, it's football season. It's back. It's
yeah,
the best time of the year.
it is.
But all right. Thanks once again for listening, everybody. Do be sure to subscribe and give us good ratings and likes and all that good stuff. Follow us on all the social medias.
For sure.
Um, I do follow everyone else in the Alabama Take family of podcasts. Of course, we had to say goodbye to the Alabama Slam podcast. The boys chose to call it quits over there. Hopefully, maybe someday down the line they actually get some time in their lives again to record.
All right.
As, we'll miss listening to them every week. Especially, I'm sure I didn't really pay attention to what happened, but I know All In was last night. But yeah, so a fond farewell to the Alabama Slam. Hopefully,
For
like I
sure.
said, uh, being a wrestling podcast, hopefully, in true wrestling form, that retirement doesn't really hold true.
Right.
Uh,
And we want to Ric Flair like.
yeah, maybe one day we'll hear, wait a minute, that's the Alabama Slams music.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But like I said, do check out the AlabamaTech.com. Of course, you can see us doing our weekly picks this year. I believe it was a rough weekend for everyone.
Yeah.
I don't know if I don't even know who you had. You picked against your
The only
Cowboys
thing
today, didn't you? Yeah,
I did that didn't work out. Maybe I did. Maybe it helped them.
yeah.
I'm sure that they were waiting to see what I'd say and wanted to prove me otherwise. I'm sure that was high on their list of priorities.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean the
Bulletin
only
board
thing I
material.
got
You know
right,
what you were doing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think the only thing I got right was Michigan and the Texas Michigan game was the only thing I got right all weekend.
No, because we both had the over in that Nebraska Colorado game. We talked about
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
I thought 56.5 was very doable and
I thought that could be first half cover almost.
yeah.
But yeah, it was a rough weekend there. But yeah, like I said, check out the AlabamaTake.com for all of that good stuff. And keep it done up real good yourselves out there, folks. Greg, I'll see you next week.
All right, buddy. We'll do it again.